Hello and welcome to Dean Park and a special update. Over the last few weeks since my October update, I've been asked a lot about my overhead masts. The ones I've employed on the layout are scratch built and they replicate the Mark IIIA headspan masts that were fitted on the East Coast Main Line circa 1988 through to 1990 when full electrification was completed. These are made from brass and nickel wire with insulators from N-Brass locos. I did a video on how to make them last summer and I'll put the link at the top of the screen. They were ready for the layout for some months, but I've been working on other parts of this east end of the layout, including the building site and back scenes, and that was all required to be in place before the fragile overhead masts that you see in front of you were fitted. My Mark IIIA headspans were made up using this diagram that I found online, and all I did was I took the measurements and I adapted them for double O gauge. What I then did was went about measuring to fit my particular area that I was doing, which is the east end of the layout on the raised section, to try and get headspans that would fit in the width that I had to work with. After I'd calculated all the measurements, the heights, the widths, and how many headspans I would need, I went about sourcing the materials. And I got this 3.5 H section from Alien's Emporium, I think it was. It wasn't cheap, I bought it, I think it was 600mm lengths. Again, don't quote me on that. If you go on the website, it'll show you what they've got. And then I went around using nickel silver wire, again from Alien's, and that's 0.45, and that comes in 12 inches long. And as you've seen from my completed headspans, and if you refer back to the video that I linked you into earlier, which I'll put again at the top of the screen, shows you how I manipulated and bent the wire, and it's all soldered, and the register arms are bent from 0.8, and they're again soldered to the actual wires, the 0.45 wires. The last kind of challenge I had was to make it look like it had been concreted into the ground, because you don't just have a post going straight into the ground. But because of the H section, I wanted the H section to go into the baseboard to give almost a foundation. I didn't want to just glue on the top, because then it would just snap. So it was to be set into the baseboard, which it is. So I needed a form of fake concrete base, roughly where my fingers are. So I contacted Justin at Scale Model Scenery and asked him if he could come up with something, and he came up with these, which are little bases with an H laser cut from them. I gave him all the sizes. I even sent him a piece of the brass down so he could play around with it and come up with a solution, and he certainly came up with a great solution in these, because they just slide onto the brass to the height you need. I then positioned them, cemented in place with a bit of rocket super glue, and then that went into the baseboard, and that was glued in turn to the surface of the baseboard, so it sits in like that. So there is a foundation underneath my masts to give it strength and stability, and they're well glued in place. Each headspan has insulators on it, just like the real thing, and I sourced these from N-Brass locos, and there's three types they sell. They sell, if you look to see that there, packs there for £4.50. They're very delicate, very intricate actually, and they come in two halves, so you could basically sandwich the wire in between. You also get ones that come with a groove, of 0.45 groove, that run along underneath them, so you can almost slot them and click them in place. And you also get the ones that I've used most of, with the hole all the way through it, a 4.5mm hole all the way through, and all you do is just slide your 0.45mm wire through that hole. A wee touch of rocket adhesive holds them in place when you're ready, and obviously I've painted them up in a different colour. And you can see from the diagram, possibly, there are the positions of where these would be placed on the headspan. So that's how I went about making the actual headspans, and they turned out like this. Now, they're painted in, well, I spray primed them for a start, then I painted them in Humbrol 64, and then I used some Humbrol weathering powders to tone them down a little bit, especially on the register arms, where obviously maybe fumes and whatnot come up from other locos that aren't electric, and the arms will get dirty anyway with contact with the pantograph. The bases were painted in precision paints, weathered concrete, and again given a Humbrol weathering powders dull down. You may have noticed from our running shots there that the headspans are spaced out differently. They will be closer together on the curves, and the distance I've left them apart fits the Pico wires. So in the future, if I wish to fit wires between the headspans, they're spaced properly. As you get around onto the straight, they're spaced out even more. As you can see there's more distance between each mast, and again they'll close together a little bit on the curves. This is prototypical, and it ensures that the actual contact and the register arm and the wire stays in between the sleepers, because if you had them too spaced out, the wire, just using the angles, wouldn't keep contact with the pantograph, and I've ensured that that's happened on my headspans. One thing you might notice from this picture is that the arms are positioned in that direction on one of them, and in the next one it's the opposite direction, and the next one the opposite direction still, so it's almost one then another, then one then another in different directions. That allows the contact wire to zigzag, and it stops constant wear on the same bit of the pantograph as well. Again, like the real thing. Well, that's it for this OHLE update. I hope you got something from it. It's certainly my first attempt at scratch building this kind of stuff. Using the brass and the nickel silver isn't maybe the cheapest option, but I feel it gives the best outcome, especially that I needed to span 3 tracks, and at the time there wasn't anything else out there that matched the East Coast, and that wasn't just, you know, the dapple single masts, which wouldn't have fitted in between the set anyway without fouling one of the running lines on the curves. I've made 12 of these in this phase. I say I've got another 8 or so to do round in the second phase, and I'll be employing the same kind of method and the same materials that I've learnt to use here for the rest of the layout. If you have any questions, you can refer to the video I did earlier on this, which the link's at the top of the screen, or you can get in contact and I'll try and answer your questions the best I can. Thanks for watching. Cheers just now.